The galaxy was quiet, too quiet. For decades, humans had been pushed to the edges of space. Other civilizations whispered about them as a weak, scattered species, a fading echo from an ancient, insignificant world. The dominion of Zelthar had grown bold, taking planets without mercy, enslaving millions and leaving nothing but ashes in their path. Humanity, it seemed, had been forgotten. On the burnt-out orbit of Titan IV, Captain Alara Cade stood on the bridge of her old frigate, her hands gripping the cold railing. The stars stretched endlessly above, silent and cold, like the universe itself was watching her, waiting. She traced the Zelthar fleet on her holomap. Hundreds of enemy ships moved like dark predators through space. Titans, cruisers, destroyers, and frigates, each one built for killing, for crushing resistance without thought. And her tiny battered fleet, barely enough to be considered a threat. "This is it," murmured her first officer, a young man with eyes too tired for his age. "They're going to destroy us. The Council already abandoned this sector. No one is coming, Captain. No one." Alara didn't answer immediately. She looked past the holomap, past the blinking lights of her ship and out at the vast emptiness. Fear tried to crawl into her chest, heavy and sharp. But beneath it, beneath every doubt and worry, there was a spark. A small, stubborn pulse that refused to die. It was human spirit. It was courage. It was something that no alien weapon could erase. "They think we are weak," she finally said, her voice low but firm. "They think we will run. They think we will surrender. They forget. They forget who we are." Her crew looked at her, searching for hope in her words. Some nodded quietly, others swallowed hard. They had all heard the stories of lost fleets, of human worlds burned to dust. But in her eyes, they saw something they had forgotten: determination. Outside the windows, the Zelthar fleet drew closer. Their engines glowed like molten fire, and every ship radiated menace. Colonists on the ground whispered prayers to gods they barely remembered, hoping that some miracle would save them. But miracles were hard to come by when the universe had forgotten your name. Alara's fingers brushed the console, feeling the vibrations of her ship, old but sturdy. Every crew member was tense, every system ready for war. She thought of Earth, of the planets they had lost, of families torn apart, of friends who had fought and fallen in distant star systems. Her chest tightened. Humanity had suffered for too long, been underestimated, mocked, and left to die in silence. But that silence was about to end. In a distant part of the galaxy, hidden shipyards hummed to life. Forgotten human battleships, prototypes, and relics from decades past were being reactivated. Engineers worked tirelessly, often sleeping only a few hours at a time. Every weld, every bolt, every system tested was a promise. Humanity would not die quietly. Somewhere far across the stars, someone whispered, "We are coming. Hold on." Back on Titan IV, Alara paced the bridge. Her crew watched her, their eyes reflecting both fear and hope. She closed her eyes for a moment and remembered a lesson her father had taught her long ago. No one can break a human who refuses to be broken. That lesson had carried through every battle, every loss, every moment when the galaxy seemed too vast, too cruel. And she would not forget it now. A faint light flickered at the edge of their sensors, small, insignificant. Yet her heart leapt. Another ship? A small fleet? Could it be? Alara's voice rang out over the bridge, calm but resolute. "Stay sharp. Whatever comes next, we fight. Humanity doesn't give up. Humanity never surrenders." For a moment, the silence of the void felt different. It was still vast, still dangerous. But beneath it, beneath the shadows and fear, there was a pulse growing stronger. The spark of hope. The spark of humans who refused to be forgotten. And somewhere out there in the darkness, the first signs of that hope were moving closer, unseen by the Dominion, unseen by the galaxy. But Alara knew, when the time came, humanity would roar, and the universe would remember. The Zelthar armada loomed closer with every passing moment, a dark wave of destruction threatening to swallow everything in its path. Titan IV's once proud cities lay in ruins below, their streets empty, their people hiding in shelters, praying for a miracle that seemed impossible. The sky above was filled with the hum of enemy engines, the faint glow of their weapons ready to fire. The colony had no hope, and the Dominion knew it. On the bridge of her frigate, Captain Alara Cade paced slowly. Her crew was tense, eyes darting between the holomap and the approaching enemy. Fear hung in the air, thick and heavy. The Dominion had grown arrogant over centuries of conquest. They believed humans were weak, scattered, a dying race that could be swept aside without effort. They had never faced the truth. "Captain, sensors show a full assault formation," her first officer reported, voice shaking slightly. "They've blocked every exit." "There's no way to escape." Ilara did not flinch. She looked at the young officer and said, "Then we do what humans do best. We fight, we survive. And if they think this is the end, they are wrong. Very wrong." The crew exchanged uncertain glances. It was easy to feel hopeless in the face of such overwhelming power. Every human planet that had resisted the Zelther had fallen. Every human fleet had been destroyed or scattered. Yet here, in the face of certain death, Ilara's words planted a seed, a fragile spark that could grow into fire. Far beyond the Dominion's vision, hidden in deep space, the first signs of hope were stirring. Human engineers, scientists, and soldiers worked together in secret shipyards, activating vessels that had long been abandoned or considered obsolete. Prototypes, powerful warships, and stealth frigates, all designed to be humanity's last stand, began to hum with life. Each system was checked, every weapon primed, every shield reinforced. Among the engineers, a young woman tightened her gloves and whispered, "They are waiting for us. We cannot fail. Humanity cannot fail." Her colleagues nodded, their eyes reflecting the same determination. Every ship they repaired was a promise. Every bolt fastened was a vow. Humanity was not finished yet. Back on Titan IV, Ilara studied the Dominion fleet. They were precise, ruthless, confident, but she saw the cracks in their arrogance. Even the most powerful empire could be beaten if it underestimated the heart of its enemy. She remembered the stories her grandfather had told her. Tales of human soldiers facing impossible odds, of entire colonies standing together against tyranny. Those stories had survived centuries because humans refused to surrender. Her comms crackled. A faint signal appeared on the secure channel, coded in a pattern only humans would recognize. It was brief, almost like a whisper. "Hold your ground. We are coming." Ilara froze, heart pounding. For decades, humans had been abandoned, scattered, forgotten. Yet here was a voice from the shadows promising that help was on the way. Hope, fragile and bright, surged through her chest. She looked at her crew and her voice was steady and commanding. "We are not alone. Help is coming. Prepare yourselves. Humanity never leaves its own behind." The crew straightened, a renewed energy sparking in their eyes. They tightened their grips on their stations, checked their weapons, and prepared for what was to come. For the first time, fear was mixed with hope. Outside, the stars seemed darker than ever, hiding secrets yet to be revealed. The Zelthar armada advanced, unaware that the first signs of humanity's return had already begun to stir in the void. A storm was coming, a storm the Dominion could not imagine, a storm that would shake the galaxy to its core. Ilara stood tall on the bridge, staring into the darkness. Her mind was clear, her heart resolute. Humanity had been underestimated for too long, and soon, very soon, the Dominion would learn that humans were never truly weak, because when humans fought for survival, for family, for freedom, they roared. And the roar of humanity was coming. The void of space above Titan IV was dark and still, but the silence was heavy, full of tension. The Zelthar armada hovered like predators waiting for the humans to surrender. Their weapons glowed faintly in the darkness, a promise of fire and death. On the planet below, the last surviving colonists huddled in shelters, holding their children tightly, praying for a miracle that seemed impossible. Captain Ilara Cade stood on the bridge of her frigate, eyes scanning the holomap. Her crew was tense, hands gripping controls, hearts pounding. Every star in the sky seemed to flicker like a warning. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and underestimated. Yet despite it all, Ilara felt a steady pulse in her chest, a stubborn defiance that refused to bow. Humanity had survived worse. Humanity had endured against impossible odds before. "Captain," her first officer said, his voice low and uneasy. "They've begun to tighten their formation. There's no way out. We are trapped." Ilara did not flinch. She turned to him, her eyes bright with determination. "Then we show them what humanity is made of. We fight, not because we must, but because we refuse to be forgotten, and they will remember us." The crew glanced at each other, drawing courage from her words. In the face of fear, hope can feel fragile, but Ilara's confidence was a spark, a flame that could grow. Each crew member gripped their station with renewed purpose. They were ready, not because they were unafraid, but because they would not let fear control them. Far beyond the sensors of the Zelthar, the first signs of hope began to stir. Hidden fleets of human ships, long abandoned or unsighted obsolete, moved from their secret shipyards. The hum of engines, the flicker of power cores, the faint pulse of weapon systems. These ships were coming alive. Each vessel was a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Engineers tightened bolts, calibrated shields, and tested weapons tirelessly. Every action carried a single message: we are coming. Humanity has not abandoned its own. Back on Titan IV, Alara felt the first distant flicker on her sensors. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but her heart leapt. Another ship, a fleet? Could it be possible that help was really on the way? She held her breath, knowing the Zelthar would see nothing but empty space, an illusion of despair. The hours stretched endlessly. The Zelthar did not move in haste. They believed in their advantage, confident in their superiority. But patience is a weapon, and humans had always mastered it. Alara paced the bridge, studying their movements, calculating, planning. She remembered stories of her ancestors, soldiers and explorers who had faced impossible odds and survived through courage, cleverness, and unyielding resolve. That same spirit burned in her now, alive in her crew, alive in the hidden fleets approaching from the darkness. "Captain," a communications officer called out suddenly, voice tight with emotion. "There's a signal. It's human. They're close." Ilara's lips curled into a small, determined smile. Her eyes shone with pride and relief. "Finally," she whispered. "They've come." She turned to her crew, her voice steady, carrying across the bridge like thunder. "This is it. Our chance to fight. Our chance to survive. Humanity never gives up. Humanity never surrenders. Prepare yourselves. Our reinforcements are here, and together we will show the galaxy what it means to face us." Outside, at the edge of Titan Arfi's orbit, tiny lights began to appear in the darkness. One by one, more and more. The first human ships, sleek and powerful, glimmered against the black void. They moved in perfect coordination, every captain knowing instinctively where to be. The Zelthar had expected weakness. They would find none. A tremor of hope rippled across the bridge, through the crew, and into the hearts of every human hiding below. This was the first sign of the storm, the first promise of what was coming. Alara's voice rose again, firm and unyielding. "Hold fast. The time has come. Humanity has arrived. Let them see our roar." And in the endless darkness of space, a faint, growing pulse moved closer, an unstoppable force carrying the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The silence of space shattered in an instant. The Zelthar armada, confident in their power, was met not with surrender but with a blaze of light and fire. The first human ships emerged from the darkness, their sleek hulls glinting, engines roaring, weapons primed. The Dominion's pilots had never seen anything like it. Their arrogance faltered for the first time. Captain Alara Cade gritted her teeth as she commanded her frigate. "Hold the line. Protect the colony. Show them who we are." Her voice was calm but carried the weight of human defiance. Her crew responded with precision and courage, knowing their captain's words were more than orders, they were a promise. The Zelthar opened fire. Beams of energy cut through space, slicing the void with deadly precision. The humans dodged, weaving and spinning, their smaller ships agile compared to the lumbering cruisers of the Dominion. Ilara's frigate shuddered as a near miss rattled its hull, sparks flying across the bridge. Her crew's hearts raced, but fear was met with determination. They would not give in, not now. Not ever. Then it began, the counterattack. Human weapons flared with a brilliance that rivaled stars. Plasma cannons, long thought obsolete, tore through Zelthar armor like paper. Missiles streaked past, guided by expert calculations and instinct. One by one, the first enemy ships fell, exploding in fireballs that lit up the darkness. Alara felt a thrill she hadn't experienced in years. This was not just survival. This was defiance. This was the roar of humanity. Long ignored, now impossible to ignore, she shouted to her crew, her words carrying over the comms. "For Earth, for Titan Hour, for every world they tried to take. Fight like humans fight, without fear, without surrender." The Zelthar faltered. They had never expected such resistance, never expected humans to fight with such unity and cunning. Their formations broke under coordinated strikes, their dreadnoughts struggling to adapt to strategies they had never seen. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and relentless. Each ship acted with a mind of its own, but also as part of a greater whole. Elara maneuvered her frigate through the chaos, dodging lasers and debris, striking at weak points in enemy lines. Her crew worked as one, eyes sharp, hands steady. Every ship that survived, every enemy destroyed was a statement. Humanity was not weak. Humanity had not been abandoned. Humanity would never bow. A young gunner, barely 20, shouted as her shot destroyed a Zelthar fighter. Tears streamed down his face, and yet he laughed, a sound of pure joy and adrenaline. Around the bridge, others cheered, knowing that each victory, no matter how small, was a spark of hope that would ignite the galaxy. Outside, the human fleet moved with astonishing coordination. Reinforcements emerged from the dark corners of space, more and more ships joining the battle. The Dominion had expected an easy kill, a massacre of the remaining humans. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a storm they could not understand, a storm fueled by courage, ingenuity, and an unbreakable spirit. Elara's voice rose once more, steady and powerful. Keep pushing. Every ship you save, every ship you protect, every strike you make, this is humanity's roar. Make them hear it. Explosions lit up the darkness like thunder across the stars. The Zelthar faltered again, their confidence cracking under the relentless human assault. For the first time in centuries, they were unsure. For the first time, they feared. And in the center of it all, Captain Elara Cade's frigate cut through the chaos, a small beacon of hope, courage, and human determination. The fight had only just begun, but already the galaxy was starting to see it. Humans were not prey. Humans were not weak. Humans were a force unlike any other, and their roar had only just begun. The battle raged across the void like a storm. Lasers streaked past, ships exploded in fireballs, and the hum of engines shook the empty space. The Zelthar had come to conquer, to enslave, to destroy. They had expected fear. They had expected surrender. What they found instead was fury, the unyielding fury of humanity. Captain Elara Cade's frigate darted through the chaos, weaving between falling debris and enemy fire. Her crew worked as one, each movement precise, each action purposeful. Fear was still there, gnawing at the edges of their minds, but it was drowned by determination. Humanity did not bow to fear. Humanity never had, Captain, shouted her gunner, eyes wide. The enemy formation is breaking. They're pulling back. Elara's lips curled into a thin, fierce smile. Good, keep the pressure. Show them there is no escape. The Zelthar faltered, their arrogance shattered by a force they could not understand. Human ships moved with agility, striking where the enemy was weakest, disappearing into the shadows of space before the Dominion could retaliate. It was as if the humans were everywhere at once, a tide of courage and precision that could not be stopped. On the planet below, colonists watched the skies, unable to believe what they were seeing. Ships that had been abandoned, hidden, or forgotten now glimmered against the dark expanse of space, attacking the fleet that had once seemed invincible. Families wept and cheered at the same time, their hearts filled with hope they had not felt in decades. Humanity was alive. Humanity was fighting back. Humanity had come. Elara's mind was focused, calculating every maneuver. She thought of Earth, of the planets lost, of the people who had died defending them. Every strike, every evasive move, every action of her crew carried their memory. She felt the pulse of the human fleet, a rhythm stronger than any engine. The heartbeat of a species that refused to die quietly. Captain, her first officer reported, we've taken out 2 cruisers and a dreadnought. The enemy is retreating in disarray. Elara's eyes narrowed. Not enough. We finish this. We fight for every world they tried to take. Humanity is not a people to be conquered. The tide began to turn. Human ships coordinated flawlessly, striking Zelthar supply lines, disabling weapons, and cutting off retreats. Each victory emboldened the fleet, inspiring courage that spread like wildfire. Fear left the humans' hearts, replaced by an unbreakable resolve. Every ship destroyed was proof. Humans would not be slaves. Humans would not die quietly. Elara maneuvered her frigate alongside a crippled Zelthar cruiser. She could see the enemy pilots inside, their confidence shattered, their arrogance gone. Humanity had become a storm they could not control, a force they had underestimated. Fire all weapons, she commanded. The frigate's cannons blazed, tearing through the cruiser's hull. Sparks and fire erupted as the vessel was shredded apart, the explosion lighting up the void. The crew cheered, hearts pounding. Across the battlefield, the human fleet pressed forward relentlessly. They were smaller, older, outnumbered, But their courage, their spirit, and their ingenuity made them unstoppable. The Dominion's forces, once terrifying, now faltered under the unexpected storm of human determination. Alara stood at the helm, her eyes scanning the battlefield. She felt a mixture of pride, relief, and fierce determination. Humanity had turned the tide. They had survived against impossible odds. She defied expectations and reminded the galaxy why humans were not to be underestimated. She spoke quietly, yet every crew member heard her resolve. This is only the beginning. They thought we were weak. They thought we would surrender. They were wrong. Humanity fights and we never stop, not now, not ever. The void shimmered with the glow of battle, the pulse of the human fleet stronger than ever. The Dominion had learned a lesson they would never forget. Humans were not prey. Humans were a storm, a force of courage and defiance, and the roar of humanity had only just begun. The Zelthar fleet faltered, their arrogance crumbling under the unrelenting human assault. Captain Alara Cade's frigate raced through the chaos, engines screaming, weapons blazing. The void was alive with explosions, flashes of plasma, and the soundless thunder of collisions in the emptiness. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting for vengeance, for pride, for every world the Dominion had taken. "Captain," shouted her first officer, voice urgent, "the dreadnought is approaching. It's massive, it can wipe out half our fleet in a single blast." Alara's eyes narrowed, determination hardening every line of her face. "Then we strike before it can strike us. Humanity never waits for fear. We create our own destiny." The human fleet moved like lightning, coordinated and precise. Ships older than many Zelthar soldiers' lifetimes launched in unison, surrounding the dreadnought with calculated efficiency. Every vessel had a role, every maneuver deliberate. They were smaller, yes, but cunning, fast and filled with human courage that no weapon could destroy. Alara's frigate darted closer to the massive ship, weaving between debris and enemy fire. Her crew worked in perfect harmony, firing cannons, launching missiles, and guiding the frigate with precision. Each strike tore into the dreadnought's defenses, weakening it, slowing it, showing the Dominion that human ingenuity was as dangerous as any weapon. "Captain," a communications officer called, breathless, "the super cannon is ready. We can take it down with a direct hit." Alara's heart surged. The super cannon, a prototype long abandoned and feared too dangerous to use, had finally found its purpose. "Aim carefully," she said, voice steady and resolute. "One shot, one chance. Humanity's roar will be heard." Her hands gripped the controls, her mind clear. The dreadnought loomed ahead, a moving fortress built for death, but the humans were not afraid. They had faced impossible odds before, and they had learned that courage was more powerful than fear. The cannon fired. A single brilliant pulse of energy tore across the void, striking the dreadnought's core. The explosion was immense. Light, fire, and shockwaves rippled through space. Zelthar ships nearby were thrown off course, some destroyed instantly. The void itself seemed to tremble at the sheer force unleashed. Humanity's roar had arrived, not as whispers, not as hope, but as thunder. On the bridge of her frigate, Alara's crew cheered, tears streaming, hearts pounding. They had done the impossible. The dreadnought, the symbol of the Dominion's might, was destroyed. Its destruction sent a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The Zelthar faltered again, confusion spreading through their ranks. Their formations collapsed, their advance halted. Every remaining ship tried to regroup, but the human fleet pressed forward relentless and united. Smaller vessels darted between larger ships, striking at weak points, defending their own, and showing a level of coordination that no one, not even the Dominion, had expected. Alara's voice rang out over the bridge, calm but full of power. "We fight for our homes, for our people, for every world they thought they could take. Humanity never surrenders and we never stop. Forward!" The galaxy watched silently as the Zelthar armada broke. The humans had not just survived, they had struck a blow so powerful, so sudden, that it would be remembered for generations. They had turned despair into hope, weakness into strength, and fear into the roar of their defiance. Outside the bridge windows, the stars were lit by explosions, the flashes of battle, and the glow of the human fleet standing victorious. Humanity had roared. Humanity had struck like thunder, and the galaxy, once silent, trembled at their power. Alara stood tall, chest heaving, eyes fixed on the retreating Zelthar ships. For the first time in decades, the humans of Titan Fu and every world that had waited in fear could breathe. Humanity had survived. Humanity had conquered not with numbers, not with fear, but with courage, ingenuity, and an unbreakable spirit. The roar of thunder echoed across the void, the roar of humanity. The Zelthar armada fled into the darkness, their pride shattered, their arrogance broken. The void that had once seemed endless and terrifying now felt alive with the pulse of humanity. Captain Ilara Cade stood on the bridge of her frigate, eyes scanning the retreating enemy. The galaxy had witnessed something it would never forget. A species rising from the ashes, refusing to bow, refusing to die quietly. On Titan IV, the colonists emerged from shelters, blinking against the artificial light of the ruined cities. Their hearts had been heavy with despair for decades, but now hope filled them like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Families hugged tightly, tears of relief and joy streaming down their faces. Children laughed, unsure why the universe felt suddenly brighter but feeling the warmth of safety for the first time in years. Humanity had come for them. Humanity had fought. Humanity had won. Alara watched from her bridge as the human fleet formed up again, moving in perfect coordination, calm but ready for any remaining threats. Ships that had once been abandoned, old or forgotten, now floated proudly, their engines humming like a heartbeat, their weapons gleaming in the starlight. Each vessel carried a story of survival, ingenuity, and courage. They were symbols of a people who had been underestimated for too long. Her first officer approached, voice hushed but full of awe. "Captain, they actually did it. We won. We really won." Ilara turned, her expression a mixture of pride and exhaustion. "We didn't just win," she said softly. "We showed them who we are. Humanity does not give up. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity fights and we fight together. That is our power." Across the galaxy, other human colonies received the same message. Transmission after transmission reached the ears of those who had thought themselves alone. Humans had returned. Humans had stood against an empire that seemed unstoppable. And the story of their courage would travel through the stars like wildfire, inspiring hope wherever it reached. Alara's mind drifted for a moment, thinking of all the worlds lost, all the friends who had fallen, all the sacrifices made. She felt a quiet sorrow, but it was tempered by pride. Humanity had survived, not because it was perfect, not because it was invincible, but because it refused to be broken. Every ship, every person, every act of bravery had carried the spark of a species determined to live. She spoke quietly to her crew, her words carrying across the bridge. "Remember this day. Remember what we did here. They thought no one would come, that we were weak. But we came, we fought, and we roared like thunder. Humanity will never be forgotten." The crew nodded, some wiping tears from their eyes. They had lived through terror, despair, and fear, but now they had witnessed the power of human courage. It was not just a victory in battle. It was a victory of spirit, of hope, of everything that made humans unstoppable. Outside the windows, the stars shone brighter than ever, reflecting the lights of the human fleet. Ilara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. For the first time in decades, the galaxy had been reminded humans were not to be underestimated. Humans were a force of nature, a storm of courage, ingenuity, and unyielding will. And somewhere deep in the void, the echo of their roar lingered. Thunder had returned. The galaxy would remember it forever. Ilara straightened, eyes forward, heart steady. There would be more battles, more challenges, more darkness to face. But humanity had proven that even in the blackest night they would rise. They would fight. They would endure. The dawn of hope had come, and with it, the unshakable promise of humanity. They would never be defeated. They would never be forgotten. And their roar would echo across the stars for all time.